You know, so when you understand that the music industry isn't just getting on stage and rapping, you say, well, understand the wider as it whole, because people are making a lot of money from this. And sometimes they're not the people that you actually know their names.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And so it's like, well, if I can't do it through TikTok and I can't do it through social media, how am I going to get my big break? You don't actually need a million listeners. You need one person that says, I need your sound for my TV show or for my advert.
Yeah. 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 Great.
Hopefully that is going to help a lot of artists. Hopefully, but yeah.
I love that, bro. And to be honest, helping out artists is the point of this podcast.
Yeah.
Firstly, I'll let you sort yourself out.
No, that's right. I'm just gonna. Is this recording already?
Long time.
Oh, mad.
Long time.
Okay, it's already here.
Long time. Dre, thanks for sitting down with me, brother.
Appreciate you, man. Of course.
Yeah,
now I'm getting
it.
nervous for no reason whatsoever. We've been talking for like 2 hours already.
2 hours, bro.
And now I'm suddenly getting nervous. You shouldn't have told me the camera was on.
We've done 2 podcasts already.
Yeah.
This is podcast number 3. Yeah, brother. No, I appreciate it, man. So, where did I last see you?
Silverstone.
Silverstone.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago.
That was pretty crazy, eh?
Played for the Silverstone F1 British Grand Prix. Yeah.
75th year anniversary. It was, for me personally, I'm a car fanatic, but I'm not an F1 fanatic.
Yeah.
Now, doing a gig like Silverstone, for somebody who, like yourself, who loves F1, like no end, what was that experience like for you, having started in music? We'll get into the starting and how you got around it and how you kind of got yourself to where you are now. But what was it like being able to perform and work for a company that actually means something quite dear to you?
Yeah, it was literally, and it sounds cliche. I don't mean to say, I think you might hear a lot of cliche things.
Be as
about this
cliche as you
interview.
need to be, brother.
Well, it was a dream come true because I said for years that the first time I go to Silverstone, I want to be playing there. I don't know why, but I didn't want to, not so much that I didn't want to buy a ticket, but I wanted to earn my way there through my music and through my artistry. And I knew it was possible. And so I felt with the type of high client and high ticket gigs that I do, it felt like the kind of lane that would naturally open up to me if I continue to do a good job, essentially. Yeah. And yeah, to have that call, yeah, I was very excited, but I felt like I had to kind of bury it because anything can happen until you're actually there. Anything can change, anything can happen. But being there and performing, I said to everyone, I am a F1 fan disguised as a DJ. Because
I'm not sure the disguise was that great.
No, I don't think it was. Because yeah, it was amazing. It was surreal. It was it felt like, yeah, it felt like deep reflection as well. It felt like an opportunity for deep reflection because I've just turned 30. And so naturally it's a deep reflective time anyway. But achieving that goal, which is something I set 10 years ago, 9 years ago, yeah, felt like a huge milestone. And words can't compare how much that really meant to me.
Yeah.
To be there and to have grown up watching F1 with my father. It's very deeply, F1 feels very deeply connected to my childhood because that's how I used to bond with my dad, was fixing cars, watching racing, driving cars. That was all. Yeah. That was, looking back, that was just our thing. And growing up, I've competed in karting races. I've done lots of track days. I've driven Lamborghini GT3 cars, F1000 cars, Vipers, Audi R8s. I've driven, anything that I'd want to drive, I've done. It was surreal because it's just such a big part of my life and my childhood, F1 and racing, yeah.
So you said 9 years ago, about 9 years ago, that's when you put the idea forward. That's when you had the goal, and then 9 years later, it manifests. Where were you in your life 9 years ago?
21. I just sold my studio in Birmingham to move to London. And yeah, that was to study at SA Institute. I think it was composition and engineering I was studying. I had just received my first 1,000,000 streams. And I decided, thank you. I did a few months in university and decided that it wasn't for me. I kind of felt like university was a bit of a, I don't want to, not a scam, but they definitely teach you the basics. And I expected for it to be maybe what would be considered a master's level is what I expected. But at that point in time, there was no real understanding that when people come into music, they don't have any musical background. I had parents that were drummers and singers and grew up in church. So a lot of the basics were just, they were learned very quickly. And I studied in recording studios for many years. I interned. So I learned a lot about signal flow and, sine waves, triangle waves, production, engineering basics. Going into university, it felt overly simplistic. And so I picked up my DJ decks and decided I'm going to go to Ibiza and be a DJ.
Great.
That was it. And I think somewhere in that process of me getting my first gig in Ibiza and coming back to London, somewhere in that year, I had made it very clear that, that Silverstone was one of the ones I would want to do, along with many other festivals that you just list when you first become a musician, and that was one. I think it became more deeply ingrained maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I started doing bigger corporate events like the SRO Championships, which is the award ceremonies for all the GT3 drivers, Porsche, BMW. It's not F1, but very, very quick cars. And that's when I really started to get a taste of the corporate. It's hard to say corporate, but the higher end of the corporate world. And that's when I felt like F1 was more attainable, and it was a very, very clear goal that if I can do this championship, there's no reason why I couldn't do something like F1. And I think that's when it was really firmly ingrained. It felt like a possibility.
Did it go from, so the idea first came about when you're 20, in your early 20s, 21. Was there a transition in the feeling from, I'd love to do that, to, hang about, I could probably do this?
No. There was always, looking back, I was always, if I felt like I could do it, I felt like I would. It was never a doubt. It's going to happen. Which I think in your older years comes across as arrogance, and in your younger years comes across as just blind optimism, just that youthful, I'll do it kind of thing. You can get away with it when you're 20. In your 30s, you just sound arrogant. But it was just this blind belief of you work hard, you'll achieve things. Again, probably ignorance, because hard work doesn't always equate to success or opportunities. I feel now humbled, honestly, so humbled, because I realized that these types of opportunities coming forth aren't just about how talented you are. It can be who you know.
Yes.
It can be, how easy you are to work with. But I'd say probably more so than anything, the right person noticing you at the right time, essentially. And so it really does contradict what I thought in my younger years, but there was never any doubt that it would happen.
On a side note, I'm going to put it out there. I've been a fan of mixed martial arts for the longest. I grew up, my family did Kung Fu together when I was in my early teens, and martial arts has always been a part of my life. Karate I did when I was younger. I got into boxing. Training for boxing is hard. The boxing workouts are insane. But I say all this because I'm a fan of a lot of mixed martial arts, and there's a particular fighter by the name of Israel Adesanya. And I've always admired his attitude towards fighting and his attitude towards winning and losing. In fact, his attitude towards losing in some ways is more admirable, given his just given the fact that it's all yin and yang, and actually you need both sides.
Yes.
So I've always said to myself, hey, I'm gonna, at some point in life, I don't know how, me and him are gonna work together. Just somehow we're gonna do it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what capacity. We'll see how it goes. But I'm just putting it out there, because similar to yourself, you have the desire, you have the inner knowing, which can be seen as arrogance, which can be seen as my parents would say tomfoolery. Like you're kidding yourself.
Yeah.
But then when it happens, you don't need to turn around and say, look, I did it. Because you knew anyway.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of just putting that out there.
I told you I manifested this. I manifested this.
Because also it's a similar type of energy, but hasn't necessarily been realized.
Well, there's also, I mean, confidence and, well, there's many like self-mastery techniques that I'm reading up about. And confidence is one that a lot of people are searching for. And confidence, from my understanding now, comes from trust the belief in yourself. It's when you're by yourself, when no one else is around, are you doing the things that you say you're going to do? And so when the answer is yes, you know, are you getting up at a certain time? You know, are you going to the gym? You know, are you working as hard as you can? Are you, you know, do you believe that within yourself, when you stand in front of people and say, I'm going to do something, it's because when you're behind closed doors, you do it, whether someone's watching or not. And I felt for the most part, especially in my 20s, the confidence was there that I would achieve these things, because there was very rarely a moment when I was alone, when I wasn't working on them. I wasn't practicing mixes, when I wasn't producing. God, I was producing everywhere. One of my biggest songs I made in a cafe, waiting for my girlfriend to finish work.
Great.
And it just so happened to become a good song, but it was like all of my spare time was put towards the goals that I had and the dreams that I had. And so I think creating those affirmations is one thing, but also having the active, you know, are you taking the active actions as well to make sure you're taking one step closer to those things becoming a possibility at some point in the future is probably just as important as the affirmation itself. It gives you the confidence that it will happen, you know, rather than it just being, do you really believe it? Are you just saying it? It's like, no, I believe it, because everything else I said I was going to do, I did.
Yes.
You know, whether in front of people or behind closed doors.
And you're actively working towards it.
Yes.
So it's not a matter of blind belief, because like you said, it's your daily. It's interesting because I found in having conversations with people and also my own life experience, I found that, you know, naturally where you put yourself is where you will find yourself. It sounds really simple, almost probably kind of silly, but if I'm putting myself in positions to, like if I'm playing the saxophone every day, the likelihood is I'm going to not only continually play the saxophone, but find myself in areas where a saxophonist is needed.
Yes.
And if, for example, I've got a desire to, I'll give you one. So I, from an early age, I've been an Arsenal fan. I can't even remember how, because my dad's a Chelsea fan, so I don't remember exactly how it came about. Maybe my brother. I remember when I was younger, I'd support teams based upon their badge, and the badge that I liked the most was who I'd supported. So I went for a Liverpool phase, I went for a Newcastle phase, and then Arsenal stuck. And I've been an Arsenal supporter pretty much my whole life. And I remember never having gone to any of their games. And the reason was, this is a long convoluted story, but there's a point at the end of it, I promise. As a kid, I remember asking my dad to get me some Arsenal tickets for my birthday. And this was around the time that Arsenal were, you know, they were the best in the league. The players were incredible and they could do no wrong. And I asked him to get me some tickets. Long and short of it was, not only did he not get me tickets for my birthday, he was like, sorry, son, I couldn't get you Arsenal tickets, but here's a maths revision set instead. And hopefully, you know, that'll just hold you.
Interesting. Okay.
Interesting, so that's where I put it. Like, cheers, Dad. And that just completely killed in my head me going to be able to see Arsenal play for whatever reason. That put something in there. But I always had a desire to just kind of be close to the team. I always wanted to be. And fast forward, I think I may have spoken about this on camera. If I have, sorry for repeating myself. But fast forward, I did a gig towards the back end of last year. It was a birthday party for Bukayo Saka.
Wow. And
it was on the day that Arsenal had beat Southampton 3-1. And it was Saka and his girlfriend and most of the first team and their partners, Wizkid and Santan Dave. Wow. And then my mug on the sax. I'm like, how did I get in this room? How did this even come about? It just happened. And yeah, certainly who I knew helped massively. Having the contacts helped. But also all of the little steps and the little events that took place prior to that meant that it could culminate in me doing that performance.
Yes, and it means so much more as well because you had that negative experience as a child as well. It almost links back to that time of, I mean, maybe negative is probably not the right word, but it's a memorable time, you know, where you really wanted this, and as a child it wasn't there. You get so much more vindication, and it feels so much more, maybe validation, maybe might be the right word, when you're there and you earned it on your own merit. You know, probably more so because you're behind the scenes. You're with them in their personal lives, not just seeing them on the pitch, you know, and you earned your way there through your artistry, which is, there's no map, there's no plan to follow for that.
No.
It's just do the best that you can and, you know, hope that it really does happen and be ready for when it does, because you never know when those opportunities are just going to fall. And I think that's why it's so important to, especially when no one's looking, is to keep taking those steps forward. Even if you don't know exactly where you're going, you're just moving forward in some way, just practicing again, sending another email, doing that post, you know, if you have to get yourself out there and to become more desirable. And you never know that it's actually might lead to the thing that you you really wanted as a child, you know, that childhood dream that we all have. Yeah, I don't mean to go off into philosophical, but
Please, bro, you should visit my head once in a while.
Well,
That's where I live.
the reason why I say is because as you were talking about childhood, and as we're talking about, you know, F1 and playing these gigs that mean so much to us, I think part of the reason the Formula One gig was surreal and a dream come true is because there was no possibility of that ever happening as a child. And what you said about your birthday really just resonated with me, which was we didn't have the money to do F1. It was never going to happen. As a child, it's just no. Too expensive. Not even, no. And so maybe being there as well on your own merit is possibly one of the reasons it felt so surreal as well, especially, you know, where we were, you know, the hospitality lounges where people had spent £2,000, £5,000 to be there, and we're being there, being paid and happy to just go between the tents, you know, seeing people, you know, some of my idols, well, not idols, people I deeply respected in the F1 community getting their signatures, taking pictures, you know. It wasn't just I'm here watching the F1, it's I'm part of what's happening here.
Yes.
You know, yeah, it leaves you speechless, man. It really does, especially as a child when you think that's something you wanted so badly and it just was the economic, the finances weren't there for it to happen. And then later on in life to supersede what you thought you would ever want is just, it's hard to put into words when that happens as a musician.
What really resonates and what's fascinating about this, and again, just the general chats I'm having with people. So what I want for this video series, in its conception, it was about providing the tools, providing the steps that successful musicians have made in order to have successful careers. And the more I speak with people, what I find really fascinating is that there's a very clear through line, and that through line is, it's like a belief and it's like a knowing. And there are things that you can do to put yourself in the best position. There are things that you have to do to put yourself in these positions. You have to rehearse, you have to practice, you have to better your craft. You have to do that. There's no way around being, there's no way around having to improve your skill sets. That has to be done. Definitely, you mentioned about likability, and that's something I've talked about with other people as well. Obviously, people want to work with people they're comfortable working with. But there's also an unseen element that is in play. I think that we sort of have an ability to affect and also don't. And that's just the chance happenings of life. And as long as we are doing our bit, it's interesting how I find people are experiencing, you know, the things that they've wanted to experience, and they haven't come about the conventional way they would have thought.
But I have a theory about that.
Please.
Right? And I think it's, you don't realize the chances that you've missed. Right? So, for example, if you circle back from childhood, first picking up the sax, to playing in Dubai, playing with Usher, playing at Formula One, SRO championships where we met, and however many other countless opportunities and shows that you've played, there would have been many small decisions that led from one opportunity to another. And had you missed any one of those opportunities, you wouldn't have known everything that you missed out on, because there's no way to know, right? And so sometimes people find themselves in situations where it's like, how did I get here? It was like you just kept taking hold of those small opportunities that you didn't realize how big the ripples of those decisions were gonna reach, essentially. And it's the same, the opposite, when people say, you know, why have I not gotten anywhere, or why is this so hard? Is because you don't realize that through whatever action or inaction, you have squandered the small opportunities, and unfortunately squandered the lifetime of opportunities that could have come from that one person noticing you. Because it can literally be someone in a crowd at any gig, any bar, anywhere, that's like, I like that guy.
Yeah.
And comes over, hey man, what's your blah, blah,
Yeah.
and that leads on to, and that leads on, and that leads on to. And there's no way to plan it. You know, there is just this hoping that you're, you know, doing the best you can at every single obstacle, every big or small opportunity, because you just don't know how far the ripples of those decisions are going to go.
Yeah.
I think that's the common thread, is there is no straight path. Unless you know someone at the top, then it's that simple. But for you to work your way there, it's just, you know, taking hold of everything, every single opportunity you can, and hoping it will lead to something else.
Absolutely.
It usually will.
It usually will. It's not, depending on where you are in your journey, will depend on, I guess, how you move. For example, right now I'm not taking every gig that's offered my way.
Yeah.
There was a period where I certainly did, and for many, many years. And when gigs weren't coming around, I'd get a sound system or an amp and a playlist, and I'd sit outside a train station and I'd play the sax for hours.
Nice.
You know, I would make my own luck, in a sense. I would just keep playing. And certainly I got a few residencies from just being found busking. I think, isn't it commonly known that's sort of how, or that supported Ed Sheeran?
I was just thinking that. I was like, you didn't Ed Sheeran make you the same way?
And Jessie J, wasn't she found online just singing to a camera?
I'm not sure. I can't remember Jessie J, but I know she was in Brit School, I think. So I think she probably was already in circles to be noticed.
Circles, yeah, absolutely.
Think.
Again, putting yourself in the position to support the outcome that you want. And the way the Bukayo Saka gig came around was, a friend of mine was getting married, so I played, he asked me to play for his wedding, played for his wedding. One of Saka's managers were at the wedding, liked me from then. Years down the line, Saka has a birthday party. Oh, let's get that guy. Let's get that guy. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
And so the seed for that took a few years to germinate, as it were. But then what it means is there's at least a few years where I have to continually do the thing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've got to still be available. I've got to still be working and
Absolutely.
whatnot. And I find that you're right. There are many sort of alternate potentialities that we'll never know.
No.
Had I done this?
Absolutely not.
What could have? But the best thing to do is just keep yourself in the game.
Yes, yes.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing, and sometimes we fixate on the one dream that we have as well, which can be, you know, for rappers, essentially, it might be performing, you know, on the biggest festival stages in the world. But oftentimes, once you get into the industry, you start to realize there are so many ways to succeed. For example, I met someone who made about 2 million off making ringtones.
Great.
And that was his opening line to me. He was like, yo, I've been told you're someone I need to meet. So what do you do? It's like, you know, I do sound design. It's like, yo, between me and you, I just made 2 million off ringtones for X company. And I was like, mind blown. I was like, I didn't even think that. Obviously, it's a possibility. Obviously, every single sound you hear in every advert, game, TV show, elevator, phone, car, it was created by someone. So of course they're going to be getting paid for it. And, you know, to be honest, for all I know, maybe what he was saying was complete BS, actually. I can't see why he would lie to me in his first introduction, personally. But I mean, it's definitely possible that he's definitely made some money. Maybe it was in royalties. That seems like the most likely. Anyway, what I mean is to say is, the more that you do it is the more that you'll find something which is just success within itself. It might not necessarily look exactly the way you imagined it in your head. When I was in my early 20s, I wanted to do all the festivals. And when I started touring, to be honest, I kind of hated it. It was very tiring. Lots of like surrounded by drugs, by girls, by drinking, and growing up in a Christian household, I never ever found that to be anything that I wanted to do. If I'm honest, I didn't see any longevity in taking drugs, drinking a lot. I was there for the music and to perform. And so touring quickly became something I didn't want to do because it came with all of these negatives, which I never considered when I had the dream. And so what I say is just in my experience of just continuing to move forward, I found myself in a niche that I actually preferred, that I couldn't even envision when I first began, but just the continuation of movement led me to find my place in the industry and find my version of success, although it looked very different to what I thought it would when I initially started.
Sure.
And yeah, you can't envision those things, you know, just moving forward will bring you
Yeah.
to where, you know, it'll just open up more doors than you realize are even available, I guess.
So what was the vision
When I was very young.
when you were young, when you were getting into the industry? So you're producing.
Oh, started well before producing.
Tell me.
Oh, you're jumping ahead, like you're jumping into late teens, early 20s. But my dad was a drummer, my mom was a singer.
Okay.
And my musical journey started in church at the age of 11, I think it was. I was playing drums in church and I wanted to be a drummer. So I was doing lots of stuff in church. I joined some bands and I went to a music college called Access to Music. 16, 17, I think it was, somewhere around there. And that was when I really experienced being in a band and how difficult it really is being so dependent on 4 or 5 other band members to continuously show up, get along, you know, all the logistics of being in a band, as anyone probably realizes, is one of the best and worst things, you know. And that's what pushed me to production, because I couldn't see that working out long term. And so I became a producer because I felt like I could be all of the band in one. I could control all of the elements. Because I had a background studying in, it was called Circle Studios, if I remember correctly. Grows on a Road Studios, sorry, in Birmingham. I interned there. I had quite an extensive knowledge of engineering. So I felt while I'm learning to produce, I can record artists in a studio, make a little bit of money and learn on the side. And that led me to be an engineer more so than a producer. I would produce for people, but more so mixing, recording their stuff and telling them when it was bad, it was a bad take, we're going to go again. That then led me to I moved a few studios in Birmingham, and it was my brother that showed me Trap City, and it was a song called like Dum Dee Dum by Keys and Crates. It was like a fusion of trap music and EDM's hard way to explain it, and it just sparked something. And that was when I became a producer. That was when I was like, I love this. This is what I want to do. And I entered into the EDM space. No one wanted to follow me. No one thought it was going to get anywhere. No one really enjoyed it. Understandably so, R&B background, hip hop background. But delving into the EDM space allowed me to delve into DJing, which allowed me to perform in almost every continent in the world other than Africa. It allowed me to enter into sync licensing, which is TV, games, adverts, and make quite a lot of, a substantial amount of money through licensing my music to those platforms. It gave me my millions of streams because I wasn't doing the standard hip hop that everyone else was doing. And it allowed me to really understand the music industry and ownership, because I was working with so many labels at the time and collaborating with so many people. I was able to understand what royalties look like over the course of 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. And that opened up my mind to business and business ownership, because it was seeing that royalties were still coming in years later. It was like, I did the work 8 years ago and it's still paying. And it's like, that's what ownership and equity gets you, which then opened the, continuous on to starting my company and trying to I don't want to say replicate, but definitely build off the back of that ownership and equity leverage, to make money regardless of when you've done the work, essentially. But yeah, all started in church.
All started in
as a drummer.
church. Did you? So I mean, I also started in church musically. I don't remember EDM being a massive part of the
Well,
of the sound. How did you? Was that a quote unquote business decision? Did you enjoy?
I just
EDM?
enjoyed it.
Great.
But more so because I grew up in church, we didn't listen to secular music. So my knowledge base of hip hop, R&B was immeasurably small in all music genres. It was just Kirk Franklin,
Kirk Franklin, Fred Hammond.
Yeah, Fred Hammond, Ty Javette, on a
Yes,
Sunday, that was
yes.
it. And that's what I was playing drums to. So when I joined the music college, I was introduced to rock because a lot of guitarists were just into rock and, it was fine. But it was the first time I'd heard EDM. Trap was kind of getting in there. I think it was around the Rick Ross era. Meek Mill was a bit big back then. But again, there was just no real outlets for me to listen to it consistently because, I just didn't. Only when I was in a dance crew, we listened to, quite a lot of music, but nothing out of the ordinary of what black people would normally listen to.
Sure.
So hearing EDM felt like having my first, I don't want to say first drink, but it was just like, what is this?
Yeah, it's a baptism of sorts.
Exactly,
Of course.
But it wasn't traditional, because people thought EDM was just which is, hard style is what it's called. It's a subsection of EDM, which has got a reputation for being very repetitive and very drug-heavy music, which to a certain extent I can understand, but there is beauty in every single genre for sure. And I think coming with a fresh slate into my early teens was such a blessing because it allowed me to appreciate all of the different styles for what they were, rather than saying I grew up this way, so this is what I like and this is what I don't like.
Yeah.
I appreciated all styles, but I loved with that specific style of trap, EDM, it was a fusion of genres. I just loved the way it made me feel. I loved that it was so energizing. I loved that it had the elements of like 808s and trap music, but over more festival style melodies. And I loved how creative it was because it didn't come from live instruments, which was where my foundation was, but it came from synthesizers and synthesis, which was like, well, how do you create that sound? How is that possible to get from a sine wave of to something that sounds so big and modulated? And it was just a rabbit hole of knowledge. And then obviously coming from an engineering background, I knew how to mix vocals, but I didn't know how to mix, I'm hearing this EDM sound that how is it so loud? Yet it doesn't sound overly compressed, which again, from my engineering background, it's like, well, the compression of dynamics means it will sound loud, but it will also sound crushed. But in EDM, that wasn't the case because there was, these tricks of saturation and sidechain compression, which you don't really delve into unless you do house music, which is when a kick, or it's usually used when a kick cuts through all the other sounds. And what it does is your brain can't perceive what's happening. So the kick sounds super loud because as soon as it comes in, everything else dips. And so you get that real like pulsating sound in house music because the kick's going, but it's pulsating with everything else, and it just gives you a nice like heartbeat type. You can't help but move to it. But what that does is it makes the kick sound much louder than it actually is because everything else dips as soon as it comes up, and it gives the perception of loudness when it's not loudness.
Never heard that before.
That's
Maybe that's my ignorance in how sidechains work, but that's fascinating.
But that's the thing is you learn these things and then you realize there is beauty in these genres because they're implementing techniques that when you learn them, you can bring them into other genres and say, how did you get that so loud? Or how does the kick sound like it's kicking? Like there was an artist called, do you remember the days of Solection when they were quite...
Yeah.
So do you remember, and I'm sure you've heard of Kate Trinada.
Yeah.
Mr. Carmack. So Kate Trinada, someone that uses sidechain compression very heavily in his stuff. That kick, it's just... anyone that hears a Kate Trinada, play a Kate Trinada song over this and, listen to the way the kick is cutting through and the pulsating of the rhythm.
Yeah.
It's an EDM technique. Or what I would perceive to say came from house music before it came from anything else. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's where I discovered it.
Sure.
And hearing that technique then used in, I don't even know what to call Kate Trinada, but definitely like funk, future funk.
Yeah.
Maybe might be a good way to phrase his stuff. But one of the key signature techniques he's using is one that I heard in EDM before anywhere else.
Great.
So yeah, there was just beauty in everything, and it was just a rabbit hole of knowledge that just felt like I need to know more.
Yeah.
I couldn't, and even now I still get absolutely fascinated by the sounds that I hear some producers create. It's just no different to hearing an unbelievable singer. I'm just like, how?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
It's the same. It's different kind of beauty, different kind of knowledge, different kind of creativity. Yeah.
I mean, I think you've answered this question already not directly, but indirectly in terms of your attitude towards music. But is there a formula? And if there is, what is the formula to putting a track out and it doing millions? And what is the formula to having successful music that multiple people worldwide are like, I want this in my bloody playlist?
Oh gosh. I guess it depends on the era and the decade that you're in. I think that's really changed. I think definitely understanding, and again, this is going to sound so cliche because everyone says the same thing, but it's just because it's true, is understanding the trend that you're in. For example, one of the reasons my music did so well is because it was the rise of YouTube. It was as YouTube was rising, the need for unlicensed music that could be used rose as well, because people need, no one wants to listen to an intro that's just silent. So where are you going to get the music from? If you use, the latest Jay-Z or Beyonce tune, you're going to get copyrighted, So you need something where someone has created something that fits the vibe that you want for your channel, but isn't going to get your copyright strikes.
Sure.
The label that I was releasing was called NCS. They were called No Copyright Sounds. Their whole thing was getting all of these producers together and saying, look, you can use the music as long as we're credited. That's the main thing. Make sure that we're credited. And they understood the music industry to know that the more people that use their music is the more royalties they're going to get. But it solved the problem of creators needing quality music from various different genres. I happened to be on that wave.
Genius.
Yeah.
Easy.
At the time, I was 19 and I didn't realize what was happening. But obviously now looking back, I realized it was just the rise of YouTube and the need for this energetic style music that would match gaming videos or adverts or whatever it was, whatever that needed to be used. And I didn't use vocals very often either as well. I very much wanted to try and make something that didn't need to be dependent on anyone else because of my experience in a band. So it was you could talk over it. Because there was no vocals clashing, it was just the music, and it just happened to hit that wave. I would say now there's so much music out there; it's already been done. So that way to move forward isn't going to be beneficial. But people are in the age of TikTok. So Ice Spice being one of the people that I'd say doesn't necessarily. I wouldn't say she always deserved the amount of fame that she got. People might say the same thing about my music, where I've said it's not really music you want to listen to. It's music specifically made for scenes, don't go into listening to this music thinking, oh man, I'm going to sing the lyrics. It's like, no, how does it make you feel? Yeah. It makes you feel like, energized. Yeah, that's why it's been used by EA, do you know what I mean? But it's not something, you're not going to sit there and vibe to it. It's just not. It's a different side of the music industry. Anyway, what I mean to say is with the rise of TikTok, there have become these artists that have become so famous because that is just the wave of music that we're in. It wasn't like that when I made it or when I did certain, well. So I think it's understanding the trends and where are we in the music industry and how you can capitalize of it, because it's all just about getting the eyes on your music. You just need one person who has the potential to say, I need this for this opportunity. And that very well might be Love Island, which I say from personal experience. Love Island used one of my tracks and I was like, cool, okay, cool. But again, it must have been one person that heard it that said, that's the one we need. Yeah. I had no...
Yeah, just like you weren't making music for Love Island.
No. We made the song because, we had a vibe for it, but because, it only takes that one person in that specific position. Like when you think about, and I have to say it from the guise of like sync licensing, because I do think that's something that's very heavily overlooked in the music world, but pays so much money. It's unbelievable. Is every advert, every scene in a TV show, you know, in a movie, Netflix, Amazon, Disney, or Hulu. You know, there's so much content. Every single one of them needs an opening song or a closing song or a montage.
Yeah.
There's continuous, you know, every advert, every car brand is going to be bringing out cars every few years, every mobile phone, every toy, you know, everything. Oh, wait, listen, when you're consuming this content, listen. All of this music came from somewhere. Someone made it, someone got paid, and someone is continuing to be paid. You know, so when you understand that the music industry isn't just getting on stage and rapping, you say, well, understand the wider as a whole, because people are making a lot of money from this. And sometimes they're not the people that you actually know their names.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And so it's like, well, if I can't do it through TikTok and I can't do it through social media, how am I going to get my big break? You don't actually need 1 million listeners. You need one person that says, I need your sound for my TV show or for my advert.
Yeah.
And just concentrate on making sure that you are creating your, you know, what's the purpose of your music? I see a lot of people, especially because I have a company that helps people market their music now. You know, I listen to their catalog and they've got like 3 or 4 different genres. And they say, you know, how can I get long-term fans? I was like, well, someone's only going to become a fan of you if they like a large majority of what you do. If everything you do is different, how can someone say, yeah, I like your stuff? It's like, what is your stuff? It's just, you're just trying everything. How can there be a fan of, I mean, yes, there are fans of everything, but we all have, you know, there's a certain capacity for what we genuinely enjoy enough to follow someone, to say anything that you put out, I want to know about it.
Yeah.
That's not every artist out there, you know? And so when you go into your artistry saying, this is what I do, whether 90% of people like it or not, because I did EDM knowing nobody, I had so many singers, I had so many rappers that says, come and jump on this. No one wanted to. Nobody. And I was working with rappers on a weekly basis in my studio. No one wanted to jump on it. A year later, there was 1 million streams. Now, the last time we got a statement from NCS, it was like 4 point something billion times my song had been used. Yeah. It was like, what? So,
yeah, man.
You know, it was like I knew what I wanted to do. I knew the sound that I was going for. And I'm just going to keep doing it. And it happened to hit a small area of the industry that needed that kind of stuff.
It's not so much a tangent, but similar to the point you just made, there's an artist named Kid Harpoon. Have you heard of Kid Harpoon?
No.
Interesting that not many people have heard of him. He's actually a friend of my partner's. Okay. They used to, I think they went to the same school and they're good friends. Essentially, he starts a band. I don't want to get the story wrong, but he was emerging as an artist, you know, just approaching labels, and they're like, kid, like you've got all the energy, all the enthusiasm, but the music isn't right. No one's gonna like the music. Why don't you think about doing something else? And he wrote his own songs, brilliant songwriter. Anyway, a lot of people would sort of take that quite negatively and doggedly just carry on and do what they're doing. And for him, he sort of pivoted and went into songwriting.
Yeah.
And now he's, I think he's in the top 3 songwriters, at least last year was in the top 3 songwriters on Spotify.
Wow.
So he's writing for everybody. Rihanna does most of, what's his name? Harry Styles writes most of his music and has found a lane, because obviously you're talking about the fact that not only making money, but the access to music and the access into the music industry isn't just standing on stage and performing.
Absolutely not. It's
there
the opposite.
Are so many other lanes, and in more cases, in a lot of cases, so many other lucrative lanes.
Absolutely.
Where you maintain all of your, your identity.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And your integrity. I mean, when you think about, someone going on tour, like, which is the last point of call for an artist, before then there has to be, music, there has to be sales, there has to be management, there has to be contracts, there has to be, PR, press, blah, blah. There's so many things but let's just focus on the tour. Let's just say that's the only thing that happens. There needs to be, where do I even begin? Where they're gonna stay? Who's gonna organize? Who's gonna do all the choreo? Who's gonna do the lighting? Who's who's gonna do the PA versions of the tracks? Who's gonna hire the dancers? Who's gonna make sure the medical team is there in case something happens? Who's gonna make sure who's gonna design all the outfits? It's we can go on and on and on about this, but just the tour alone, there are so many elements of the music industry that interweaves into other industries where you could be a choreographer if you're into dance, and you could be a choreographer for the biggest artists in the world.
Yeah.
Or even some of the smallest artists in the world. It might not be that. You could be the artist manager. You could be the legal team that drafts all the contracts. You know, you could be the social media manager for these artists. You could be the poster designer for whatever poster goes out where, you know, there are just so many lanes into these industries that are not just, I want to be the person on the stage with the mic, because that's only one person.
Yeah.
And there are hundreds, if not thousands of people that have been a part of that artist's journey in some way, shape or form, that might not result in you being the person on the mic or you being the person on the stage, but you have been involved and you would have made your fair share of money from being a part of that process.
Yeah.
It's, and again, you know, I can only talk from my own experience, but from my standpoint, you know, my music was used in a scene or an advert that was part of a much wider project. You know, one scene in a 12 series, you know, TV show or something, you know, must have been one very, very small decision. Oh, we just need the music for that scene.
Sure.
But all of the cameras, all of the angles, all the editing, all the actors, you know, the scenery that needed to be scoped out, the lighting that needed to be done, the makeup that needed to be done, the script that needed to be written. There were so many processes where I was just one very small bit of it, where it was just the music for that scene.
Yeah.
A part of this huge project that was involved. And it's like, no one knows my name. No one knows I was involved in that, but the royalty checks still come through.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's just understanding it's just so much bigger than being that person in the spotlight. I think if you can let go of that, I maybe that's not the right thing to say. I'm not saying to let go of your dreams, but definitely understand that the industry as a whole is a lot bigger than just that one element.
Yes.
Is what I would say.
There's a lot of moving parts in order to make the whole, essentially.
And I think people are very over-consumed with being the whole.
Yes. Well, because that's the front man is what you see. That's the part that is, I won't say advertised, but you know, when somebody goes to see Rihanna, they don't go to see Rihanna because Rihanna's got a really great guitarist. But
they also don't see the negative sides of being Rihanna. You know what I mean? You're seeing Rihanna on stage for 2 hours. You're not seeing her life where she can't walk into a shop.
Yeah.
You know, or where her life is completely scrutinized, every relationship she ever has, or every blemish that's on her face. You know, there's a dark side to all of this as well, which
absolutely
you have to also consider. You know, there's nothing wrong with wanting the limelight, but there's other ways to fulfillment as well. You know, there are ways to be a part of an industry and to feel like you have accomplished something. Many things, you know, even down to the F1, that's a huge accomplishment for me. There are hundreds of thousands of people there that would never knew I was there. They heard some music. They may have seen a guy on the decks. I don't know who I am. You know, and it's fine. I don't have to be the main person to feel that level of fulfillment in that accomplishment. You don't have to be the person on the stage.
No. Well, what often happens is the person on the stage, like I was saying, because that becomes a familiar picture of what success is, particularly if you're a singer. If you're a singer and you want to, you know, you want to essentially sing for a living, in your mind, what that means is record a #1 and sing, you know, at the Grammys, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Name a place, sing on a big stage. But like you rightly said, there are so many different avenues that are involved. Who would know? Like who and who would know? I say who would know? Like it's not what you see coming up. So the idea is, if I'm to make it in music, it has to look like this, and this tends to be very narrow, and there are a lot of people clamoring for that one position. It's looking the best, it's sounding the best. You know, spoiler alert, there will always be somebody who looks better and sounds better. Without a shadow of a doubt.
There's always a better verse, there's always a better mix, there's always a better production, there's always better.
And if you want to be the best, somebody has to be the best. So want to be the best, but
how can you be the best in an industry that's subjective?
All you can be is the best version of yourself. That's all you can be.
Exactly.
And maybe that doesn't mean I'm going to, and don't get me wrong, I don't want this to be hypocritical by any means, because our experience is living the dream, is performing in the places we want to perform. However, in order to get here, there has also been so many other compartments that have been running simultaneously, and that then gives space for the odd experience that then ticks off a bucket list kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, it took 9 years to have a 4-day experience at the Silverstone, and that came and it went. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Other than the memorabilia that I have
Yeah,
in my
of
room.
course, and all the signatures. Yeah, absolutely.
Trying to hang on to the 4 days, but yeah.
But like I said to you, I bought a Lego F1, and I've got that sat on a shelf at home.
That sounds amazing.
I'm
I
holding
wish I
on
had
to
that
it.
idea.
I'm holding on to it. Hey, Subaru, and I'll send you a link.
Well, do you know they actually did that? They actually had like real Lego They did it this year actually, where they put all the F1 drivers in real full-sized functioning Lego F1, and they did a track. I can't know what track it was, but I'm pretty sure it was this year.
And they drove full-sized Lego.
Yeah. At slow speeds, obviously, but they did it.
But still, that'd be great.
Yeah,
imagine if they crashed one and caught that
They did.
in slow motion.
They crashed. They were having fun in there.
Oh my gosh! Are there videos? Just Lego pieces flying everywhere.
Type it in Lego F1 race. You'll see it. They did it. Yeah, they were having a great time.
Oh, incredible!
But
incredible.
Yeah, definitely a memorable experience. And I mean, if you want to, send me the link for the Lego F1.
Oh,
car,
yeah, absolutely. No, well, I mean, I say that only because, again, the experience playing for Bukayo Saka was pretty immense, and it lasted about 2 hours. Do you know what I mean? And there was a combination of a lot, but it came and it went. But it doesn't mean to say other things won't come and other things, there aren't other experiences waiting to happen.
Yeah, of course.
I guess just the point of what I'm saying is it isn't all at the pinnacle every time, all the time.
No. The pinnacle is usually. Have you seen like that the iceberg? Sorry to cut you. Sorry,
ahead,
but have you seen that picture of the iceberg where it's like you only see the top and then there's water?
Yes.
Yeah, it's that's the pinnacle. Is that part that people see? But there's this, and again, it sounds so cliche, but it's just so true. Those 2 hours or those 4 days that you experience those things come after usually a lot of hard work or a lot of things that people have never seen, and they just see this one thing. And there's just examples everywhere, and I can only pull examples from my own experience. But that song that has done so well, when I look back at how many nights I was up just producing, trying to figure out synthesis, trying to figure out how to mix, what headphones should I use, what MacBook should I buy, what's plugins, all these little decisions that led to that song being made and doing however many millions of views. That didn't just come. It still came from a hell of a lot of mistakes. And there's even many mistakes in that song. I would do that very, very differently now. But what people see and what they remember, it's a very, very small part of the journey. And I think maybe the more important part of the journey is the part that people don't see.
Yes.
The part that that immense struggle. And it doesn't always have to be struggle, but I do think there's always some element of feeling like you don't know what you're doing and trying to figure it out, and that just being part of the process.
I'd go as far to say nobody has a clue what they're doing.
Yeah.
We're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all trial and error. So, question. You produce a song, millions of streams, millions of views, create some revenue for you. How many songs did you have on your hard drive at the time that you created that song?
Hundreds of gigs, many ideas. I couldn't even count. An unbelievable amount. Still, I try not to delete anything, so I've still got hard drives of just files that I didn't want to let go of.
I asked you very specifically because I had a feeling that would be your answer, and to highlight the point that it's not you haven't just stumbled across a thing.
Yeah.
Right. How many tracks did you put out? How many tracks did you have out at the time that you?
Well, that was actually interesting because it was my first EDM track that I put out that caught the attention of the label. That's the thing. It was done. But again, it was a very different time. It was a time where the owner of the label, Billy, he was a construction worker before he started this label. I don't think it was even meant to be a label. I think it was just a YouTube channel because it was just the rise of YouTube. So he was also looking for artists and he was also looking for a certain type of sound, and he just came across it. It's like, never forget, you know, I put it on SoundCloud. It got 10,000 streams, plays, I think, yeah, plays. And he just sent a message like, hey man, I'd love to release this on my label. Cool. I didn't know what it was. I just said, cool, you know, whatever. And when it came out, and then I looked, and it was just at 1 million.
That's great.
There was no plan.
Yeah,
and
of course.
sometimes, and people have asked, you know, how did you? I was like, it was just luck. I just put myself out there, and it just happened. Anyway, so just to say, I don't think that's an example that would play out with everyone else.
No, do you know what? It's exactly what I wanted to hear. It's exactly what it is. It's true. Actually, yes, it was luck, but the 100 gigabytes of tunes that you've got on your hard drive, that's all of the what's it called, the under the iceberg that isn't seen.
Well, this is the part of the game that people don't talk about is, you know, everyone, you know, people would love to be 1 million streams, but then there is an expectation that's set at that point. Because it's like, what are you going to do now? You've reached that, so what about your next song? Because your next song only hits 20. You're a one-hit wonder. Which is horrible. So now you've got this immense pressure to produce something that is similar, that is just as good, if not better. And then now you've got the I hope people like it. I hope it gets the streams. I need to be on record labels. And then there's a whole period of your life where you're not chasing numbers, because that is what you set as success.
Yeah, it almost becomes like a shackles.
Exactly.
Almost.
Yeah. So there's two roads I'd like to go down in this discussion. One being, yeah, you end up chasing numbers because you think that is now the pinnacle of success is this new benchmark, and that will always happen. If you get 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, and now you're just making music because of numbers. That's it. There's no more, what do I want to make? It's what do I think is going to do well? But there's also the rejection that comes with that. So because I didn't put anything out thinking it was going to get on a record label, it just happened. I was thrust into this opportunity without any way to replicate it, because it was luck the first time. So now there's this, okay, I've got a window into one label, but what's the actual process of creating something that they're going to like?
Sure.
Then there was a lot of rejection that happened in between that song and my biggest song, because I had to learn that process of, well, when is a mix good? When is a mix, kind of, I struck lightning once, figuratively speaking. And now you have to take away your self-worth from someone else's acceptance of your music. And it can become, I don't think we talk about it. We talk about trying to achieve these things, but there is definitely a lot of inner work that has to happen once you do, because you tie your worth to it. And it still happens now. Oh my gosh, bro, like great numbers, man. Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything. I tell you, don't mean jack, bro. It doesn't. Oh, you must be doing so well. But most people, it's a fine line to be thankful and to respect, that many people would like to be in that position. But once you've gone through that rabbit hole and come out at the end of it, you realize I am nothing more or less with or without these numbers. There is this arbitrary respect that is put on it, but the music isn't better or worse because it has numbers.
Yeah.
It just did well, and it's just happened to be in the right place at the right time with the right people with the right budget. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And then there is the second negative of achieving these goals and it being a very brief flash of happiness, of it being, oh man, I really want to get on this, I really want to be signed to Sony. You get signed, or you get a track signed to Sony. Yeah, man, it's great. And then there's just nothing. Now what?
Yeah.
You've done it. What happens now?
Yeah.
Because you didn't, you tied your happiness to, I need to achieve this single goal, thinking what would happen. Whether your life changes or your life doesn't change, there's still going to be this question of either you need to do better, and that will just continuously keep happening. You need to do more and more and more, which is impossible. You're good songs, bad songs, ups, downs. Or that will be the best that you achieve and you would never get that again. And you have to be able to rectify with, I achieved my goal and that was good enough.
Yeah.
Rather than I achieved my goal and now I'm never as good as I was back then because of blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Or just this sense of loss. And not loss, feeling lost into what do you do now that you have achieved that thing that you set your life on achieving. what's the meaning for your music and your passion now?
Yeah.
'Cause it's not about self-expression. It was about achieving this.
Yeah.
So now what? You kind of have to refine why you were making music in the first place. It's not easy. It's a very tumultuous time, and it's worse because everyone else treats you as if you should be so happy that you achieved this, without realizing the pressure and the darkness that can come on the other side of having this new sound expectation on your life and your artistry.
It's the music journey is such a fascinating one because there is no clear goal. Maybe there's a clear goal. Goal isn't maybe not the word I'm looking for. There's no blueprint as to what a successful musician or artist's life looks like. If I want to be let's say a visual merchandiser who works with what a store looks like, what a shop front window would look like. I get a contract, I get a set of things to do, a time to work, and I know what success is because my shop window is out there and it's being used, and other people are now booking me for my services. It's a very clear line as to what success is, and if you're in a somewhat 9 to 5, or if you have a job description, for example, these are very clear pathways to what success is. It's completing A, B, C, D, E. Do you know what I mean? The creative, the sort of freelance, the artist life, the artist way. There is no job description for it because it heavily aligns on what one considers artistry and how one wants to get it out there.
Yes.
And like you're saying, well, if what I want to do is record music and have that in the world, well, record something and put it online.
Exactly. And that's what you can't let go of. It's, and it's so difficult because there is a game to be played and there is a business and there is money to be made. But it's really threading that needle of, okay, this is the business side and this is the artistic side. And honestly, yes, sometimes those lines get blurred. That's why sometimes artist managers are good, because it's their job to keep the business sorted and it's your job to do the artistry, and that can clash, and it's not easy. But at some fundamental level, it has to be the foundation to a certain extent. And I'll give you two extremes, two experiences I've had very recently. One extreme is working with a singer who spent $15,000 on a song and had no money left for their marketing, like $7,000 on a music video that nobody watched, less than 1,000 views. 15,000. When they said they spent a lot of money, I couldn't believe it. It was like, yeah, okay, cool. So they had basically they've got a product out there that is very well produced. I would say
That's so painful.
Yeah, but they are happy because that's their artistry. And I've had conversations with them to say, don't do it this way again. Yeah, but I want it to look like this. I need it to feel like this. I need these press shots. I need this video. I need this. And it's this big production and pit of money for them to hold on to their sense of artistry, which I can't argue with because that's the essence of what we do, self-expression. It's coming at a huge cost though. And then you have the other side of things where I have a friend who used to be at 2 million monthly listeners, doing very, very well. And because of multiple circumstances within the duo and in his personal life, that has now dropped down to about 800,000. And he does not want to go to a very prestigious event where we all come together as artists. He doesn't want to go because he feels lesser than.
Wow.
Because of his monthly listeners.
Oh,
he's in a very depressed state for multiple reasons, but one of them is his sense of self-worth being tied so closely to the business side of it. I used to have this much numbers, this much revenue, and then you have obviously the other side of someone just holding onto their artistry, that they're not thinking about the business side or the financial side whatsoever. And it's hard to find the balance between the two because you can get lost on either side, very, very easily, very, very quickly.
My younger brother is a drummer, and there was a drummer and there's an artist he was playing for who just got signed to, not a crazy successful deal by any means, but they put a few $100,000 behind him and his music. The artist had one particular look and sound prior and had a following, hence why we're interested. When he became signed to, I'm not sure what branch, I'm not sure who exactly was involved with this artist, but what would happen is his look changed.
Yeah.
Now he's got tattoos
Yeah.
all over his body. Didn't have any tattoos before. Now he dresses different. Wasn't interested in dressing that particular way. And his sound is fundamentally quite different. And my brother says there was a rehearsal that he was in with the artist where halfway through the rehearsal, the artist just broke down in tears. He said,
It's not me.
This isn't me. This isn't who I am. This isn't what I got involved in the game for by any means. But what looked like an opportunity being wined and dined, like you said, that being presented to him and numbers he hadn't seen before in his life, all of that seeming like, I've made it now. You go down that road, you don't understand the contracts you're reading.
No.
You don't really fully get the world you're getting into. You make a decision, you sign a bit of paper, and you F it up.
Yeah.
What I think would be massively beneficial for anybody, musicians, artists on the brink of making these big deals, is to get an independent advisor, somebody who has legal knowledge to look over a contract and explain it to you. Musicians Union are great for that.
Yeah.
You know, if you're on the brink of signing something, don't do it until you know what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Because, like you rightly said, that can change someone's life fundamentally.
That piece of paper is binding, and it can be binding for like. Yeah, like, oh man, can I say this? Okay, I will say this. There are definitely contracts that I have signed, which I'm immensely grateful for, but I also realize how much I've also signed away and how different my life could and should have been had a few lines and a few numbers been different, or a few things being included. Yeah, a few clauses being included in those royalties, because trust me, like when you see like 4 billion views, you know, and that's just YouTube. That's not like Spotify, TikTok. That's not any of the sync stuff. You know, that's not. There is money has been made, and there's many artists now that come from my era, where they're transitioning into their 30s and now realizing the contracts that we signed in our 19s, 20s, and we haven't been screwed over by any means. We're you know, thankful, of course. But there's definitely a lot that was left on the table, which maybe could have been negotiated for, maybe not. But you got to know what you're signing for sure. Yeah. At least you walk into it knowing I willingly do this, not I think I'm getting something I'm not. You should be very, very clear of this is what it is. But then it also brings on the other side where I've met artists that had very, very good opportunities that I think they should have signed and they didn't because they thought that they were entitled to more. When in reality, you're not, because no one knows you. Do you know what I mean? You're a potential. And it's just the same as a potential idea or a potential business. Potential is not the same as action. It's it's something, could be something out there in the ether if all of these things also line up. And if you're not the person that can make all of those things line up, you will always just be a potential. And I don't think there's anything worse than being a potential, you know, while frying chicken or packing boxes. Nothing against those kind of work, that kind of work, but I'm saying if you know that you had the opportunity to be so much more and you passed it up out of, you know, ignorance or having some kind of chip on your shoulder, I think that's equally as bad as well as signing the wrong deal. It's always the missed opportunity, either through signing something that took that opportunity away or not moving forward with an opportunity because you thought there would be a better one down the road and it just never came. It's such a difficult landscape to navigate once you really get into it, that it really is, you know, one wrong move and you could mess everything up, and there is no right or wrong way. I think in the beginning of this you asked me, you know, what is the formula, and it's I don't think there really is a specific formula, because the industry is as deceptive and difficult to navigate as people make out it is, because it's the kids that govern the music industry, in my opinion. I think the 12 to 18s, those are the ones that will listen to music religiously, and they will dress like you, sound like you, do everything they can to be like you, because they are so impressionable, and they're the ones that streaming, buying tickets, you know, doing whatever they can because they don't have an identity of their own. So if you capture the kids, you know, the kids, you've got an audience that are going to be loyal to you at least for the next 5 years. Now, kids are going to follow people that they feel like relate to them. which is usually other kids or the younger looking artists, which regardless of what they're singing about or rapping about, they feel like they can connect with. But those young kids that are artists are also the most impressionable because they're young kids. And so the music industry can continuously take advantage of these younger artists because they are young and ignorant and they don't know. They might have a good team behind them, but at the end of the day, it's a lot easier to take advantage of a 18 to 23-year-old artist that's hot and doing well on TikTok than it is to take advantage of a 35-year-old. Like, bro, I know what I'm signing.
Yeah.
I know what's going on. And so the music industry will be predatory because it's predicated on a younger audience that props it all up in the first place. There are, those diehards, that will go out to a Queen, that would still love to see Queen, that would still love to see ABBA, I'm sure Earth, Wind and Fire will still go in. There's people out there that would buy tickets, yes. But in the age of digital media, if you compare the amount of young people listening to music compared to the old people that, that would be willing to shave their head if someone said shave their head,
Yeah, sure.
It's incomparable. So there's a lot more power when you hold the young audience in your hand. And I don't think there's much that can really be done about it because the younger you are is the more potential you have and the more connected you are to what's relevant. But it also comes with you're most likely to be preyed on because you just don't know what you don't know.
More vulnerable.
You're more vulnerable.
Correct.
Yeah. If you wait until you know more, the opportunity might have already passed because you're now 30.
Yep.
And there's definitely a space for those kind of artists, of course, but I'd say I think the majority of the problems that come from the industry come from usually in that early to late 20s, just not really knowing what's right, what's wrong, and falling into these traps.
There are so many examples of young musicians and artists and, creatives who do have that spark, who do have the what is attractive to other young people. And as you said, that's a large portion of where the money's made is through the attention of young people. So if you're able to become successful as a young person, what that can also mean is there's a lot of eyes and a lot of interest in guiding your movement and what you do. They want to turn you into a product because the thing is they've done it 1,000 times.
Well, you are a product, from when your creation is making money, you are you're a product, it's your words, they come at a cost. That's why you charge for verses.
Yeah.
That's why you sign contracts.
Literally.
That's why you have advances. That's why someone is paying for your talent, your unquantifiable potential in the future. And you have to accept that you are a product. And it's I think mentors are really important in anything that you do, but someone that can keep you grounded and say, look, you block out all the noise. And with, we're now talking like, 95% of artists aren't going to get to this place. It's just a sad reality. There's 100,000 songs going out every single day. A large majority of people aren't going to get to this place. However, if you do in any capacity, whether you've got an advance of 10,000 or 100,000 or 1 million, at some capacity, you're going to need someone to help navigate through this. Because if you want that 10,000 to become 100,000, you're going to need to be able to navigate all of the pitfalls that are going to come with that.
Yeah.
Same if you want to get from 100,000 to 1 million. There's going to be a lot more pitfalls. And I think at any stage in your career, having a mentor that understands these are the traps that are going to be set for you is probably the best way just to, is always going to be the right way to navigate it.
Yes.
You need someone that is beyond your years, who can see more than what you can see.
Yes.
To just say, hold up 1 second, let that car pass. Okay, now cross. Do you know what I mean? And rather than you just running at the opportunity that you think is good and you get lit by a car, you're not... I know it's a crude example, but
it's the truth.
You're so fixated on what you think can be that you're very blind to the reality of what's going on, and sometimes the miscellaneous what's the word motives that other people might have for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brother, I end all my chats with this question. I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you've had to say. It's very fascinating, your perspective. But it's going to be it's going to be a bolt from the blue. But what is the single most valuable I always ask a question this way, and it never makes sense. I've got to pre-prepare the way to
It's
ask this
okay, no
question.
worries.
But the most valuable opinion you have of yourself, what is that?
Gosh, wow! You're gonna have to put some editing, cut out the time.
The time it takes you to answer the question.
The most valuable opinion I have of myself.
That's how I answer the question. What is the most
That,
valuable opinion?
you know why that's such a fascinating question, and I will answer it.
Great.
Is because it isolates, it gives the implication that you within yourself is very different, I guess, maybe to your conscious self, I guess. And it's something in a book that I'm actually reading, where, you know, there's some people that say I can't live with myself, or I hate myself for what I just did. You know, there is this sense of your emotions and your consciousness being very, if you can observe your own consciousness, or you could say, man, I know I shouldn't be doing this.
Sure.
Then there has to be some level of dissonance between yourself and your consciousness for you to even rectify and say you're watching yourself doing something you know you shouldn't do, but you still feel like you can't stop doing it. You can't be one within the same. There has to be
some level of duality, at least.
Exactly. So when you raise that question, it makes me think back to my perception of my physical self and the way in which I've perceived myself. It's quite interesting. It's a very, very layered question. I think the most valuable opinion I've had of myself is, I think I've always known what I didn't want to be. I never moved forward thinking about what I wanted to be, but I moved forward thinking of what I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be a liar. So I always moved forward with trying to make sure that my word meant something. I didn't want to be sneaky or screw anybody over, so I always tried to move forward with integrity. Always, in everything that I do, is always what is the right, whether I want to do or not, what is the right thing to do. I didn't want to be, I don't want to say the word stupid, but I always sought knowledge because I don't like feeling confused. I don't like feeling like I don't understand certain elements of life. So I've always sought knowledge. And I didn't want to work a job that I didn't enjoy. I didn't want to be told what to do, to a point where, you know, I felt like I had to do it because I need this money. I knew that was just, I could see that's, no matter what it is, I know that I didn't want that. And so I think, I wouldn't say it's an opinion of myself, but I definitely feel that a lot of my guiding force has not been towards something, but away from the things that I knew I didn't want for myself, or the version of myself that I didn't want to be. I'd say that's probably been the most important thing. And I think sometimes that's easier because when you set goals for yourself, they feel unattainable. They feel like it's somewhere in the distance, it's somewhere in the ether. But when you know what you don't want to be, it's usually already elements of yourself that you just need to change. It's very easy to lie. It's very easy. It's like, I don't want to be a liar. Rather than say, oh, I want to be the most honest, thoughtful person in the world, it's just say, well, I just don't want to be a liar. And it feels a lot easier to be able to say, okay, that's something I'm not going to do. And everything that comes with that is just a side effect. Integrity just comes, it's integrity is very difficult to quantify because it means in every single aspect of your life, you need to do the right thing, whether you're with someone or without someone. And that feels like a lot of pressure. It feels very difficult to accomplish when really that's a side effect of just not lying.
Yeah.
You know, and then it becomes feels like it's attainable then because you just don't do that.
Just remove
that. You know, think, I think that can be, you know, I don't want to be unhealthy, you know, and you're looking at what you're about to eat or you're looking at what you're to do and you're like, well, this is what an unhealthy person would do. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not just going to sit around and say, you know what, going to the gym every day sounds like such a slug. But it's like when you're sitting down here and you're like, what have I done today? You know, I don't want to be this person that just sits around and does nothing. I want to be someone that feels healthy. So then I'm not going to do this. I'm not just going to sit around. And then it becomes very easy to put on your gym shirt and just go to the gym. Everything else after that will just come. But I don't know. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes
I'd
perfect
say.
sense. It makes perfect sense, brother.
Yeah,
It does.
that's what I'd say. I think probably the biggest opinion of myself is more so just imagining the version of myself I didn't want to be, and I think I've been surrounded by that in my younger years of really looking around and seeing the traits I didn't want to embody, and that has been my guiding force for sure.
Dre,
Appreciate you.
appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you very much.
Yeah.
It's even on that note. I listen to a lot of Eastern spiritual philosophy, a lot of Buddhism, Taoism, Zen Buddhism. Alan Watts, if you're familiar with the name, he talks a lot about some old Buddhist beliefs, and their image of God is described through a series of saying what God isn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
God isn't wicked. Do you know what I mean? God isn't even all powerful, because that's only what we can determine.
Yeah.
Do you know, like removing like netty, they'll say not that. You know, God isn't just good.
Yeah.
Because part of the life experience encompasses it all, and there's something about removing. It's how a sculptor is able to reveal the whatever the image,
The beauty in the stone. Yeah. Taking everything away. Yeah.
Absolutely
True. That's very true. I didn't actually think about it that way. But it's I wonder if that can be applied to all walks of life.
Well, the tagline of this here podcast is everything is rhythm, everything is expression, and everything is ultimately everything.
Yeah.
As above, so below. Well, again, there are parallels throughout life in every area of life, I find. So if we're talking about the process of removing, and not necessarily even striving to be the best, but actually daily chipping away the things that we don't want.
Just being better than you were yesterday, really.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, that applies to your driving. When you're going for your driving lessons, well, actually, what I don't want to do is hang out on the clutch for too long. Do you know what I mean? So now, what I don't want to do is get to flipping 5,000 revs in gear one.
Yeah.
Like, well, now every time I change gear,
or even just going as far as I don't, I don't want to accidentally, kill a child, and it sounds like a really far out there, example, but there've been times when I have been driving and there's been a bus, right, and I've gone past the bus, and it just hit me just as I went past the bus. What if someone just stepped up? You can't see, because you just see this big butt. You can't see someone's about to step out or not, and it didn't even cross my mind that no one intends to hit a child. You never know when the child. I've had an instance where a child has ran out in front of the car in front of me chasing a ball, just like a movie, slamming on the brakes. And I was like, that could have been like a life-altering event there of killing this child. Obviously, it's never going to be intentional, but these things do happen. So when you move forward with caution to say, well, I don't want to be in that situation, you just ease off the gas a little bit, or you're hyper aware of, my vision is obstructed there. Am I going to be prepared for something just to jump out of me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's again, very, very tough example, but definitely having the mindset of what you don't want to happen and you don't want to be, I think can actually be a guiding force within itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'll call you the next time I want a downer in a flipping conversation.
It's fine,
Jesus.
man. No, sorry.
No, I'm the worst. Well, bro, you're absolutely right. Like, so to go a little bit further, and your ideas are Buddhist, and I was teasing when I said what I said, but like, what is her name? There's a god, Khalid.
Okay.
Her name is. Khalid is the most terrifying thing possible. Her image is black, and not ebony, melanated black in that sense. It is the color black. She has fangs for teeth, blood dripping from her teeth. She has a severed head in one hand and a scythe in the other, and like, she's an image of terror, of absolute terror. And what she represents is the fact that I could be driving and a kid could jump out in front of my car, and that would ruin not only my life, but the family's life. That would ruin everybody who saw that happen. The the emergency crew who have to get there on the scene.
Yeah, it will scar everybody.
Everybody's life. Do you know what I mean? And then amidst that is now a pile up, and it's just people getting flipping. Like the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
Somebody could run into this room with a knife and just, do you know what I mean? Cause a ruckus. Like the worst thing that could ever happen at any moment, but it doesn't. And that's who Khalid is. She is a reminder that, yo, this could be horrific. And even for the people that are experiencing right now horrific realities, I mean, I don't mean to be facetious in any way, but it could be worse. It could be orders of magnitude worse.
True.
Even the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah.
It could get even darker.
But you know what's so interesting? Is there is a level of enlightenment that comes from that thought process of, and it comes from being present. It comes from, I mean, I think, and I by no means claim to be a scholar of any kind. It's only because I'm reading up on these types of ideas, yeah, of enlightenment, and this will make sense when I come back to this. I think Buddha said that enlightenment is the absence of suffering, right? That's the way that he explained it. And so when you're in these terrible situations and you're able to say, you know what, it could be worse, there is this level of acceptance that comes, and it's called being in a state of being. And they say that being in a state of being cannot be explained, it can only be felt.
Experienced.
And you can only have the experience of a state of being by being present, by being in total acceptance of what is right now, which is we are sitting on this sofa, the air is cool, you know, everything is okay, no one is being present in this moment and really appreciating where you are, what's going on, is peace. There is no sense of struggle or strife or pain that comes from being in that moment, right? And being in a state of being, the side effect of that is enlightenment. So you cannot chase enlightenment.
No.
You can only chase a state of being present, and it's just a side effect, which is the absence of suffering. And I think what you've explained there of it could be worse puts you in a state of, this is where I am, I've accepted it, and it becomes okay regardless of how much it hurts. My reality is, this is where I am. It's a state of acceptance because it could be worse. And I'm thankful that it's not worse, hence why I'm okay in the state that I am. And you reach this sense of momentary or long-term peace in where you are, because, do you know what I mean? It forces you to be present and say, yeah, my situation could be, I don't want to bring in any examples, but I'm sure we can all think of our situation and say, yeah, I might have lost 10 grand, but I could have been 100. Or it might be 10 grand in debt, I could have been 100 grand in debt, you know, kind of thing.
It could have been your leg.
Yeah, or I might not have a leg. Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Or, you know, or I could have been crippled, or I could have been blinded, or I could have been, you know, I mean, some people might say that maybe there are certain situations in their life that they would prefer death. They'd say, I would rather die than have this happen. It's like, well, that hasn't happened.
Has that even happened? And those who've experienced it, why are they still alive?
Yeah. What joy of
do you know what I mean? And even for those who have died, well, they're no longer experiencing it. Like, I mean, it's the experience of life itself, I think, is my philosophy. I take a lot of my ideas from Buddhism and from Eastern spirituality, but not only that, from my lived experience. And I find that actually, I had a recurring dream as a child. I'm going on a lot of tangents. I had a recurring dream as a child, and it was one of which where I was in the back of my mum's car. Sat in the back of her car, no one's driving it, but a car's sort of runaway car. It's driving. Drives into a closet in Lewisham shopping centre. Okay. And in that closet is a bunch of explosives, and boom, the thing blows up. It's a pretty awful dream for a kid to have pretty much every other night. And I had that dream repeatedly. Certain times I didn't even want to go to bed because I know what I'm going to see when I sleep. But the last time I had this dream, it's the same thing. I'm in the scene. I'm like, here we go again. And the car goes to the same place. Boom. This time, the difference is I then see myself laying on the ground and I see two hands of light pick me up. And that's the last time I had the dream. And I never had that dream again. Wow. And for a long, I wouldn't even say I know what it means per se, but certainly the fact that there is mercy and love at the end of the journey, whatever form that will take. Certainly, it means that I wasn't. I was. It's the poem Footprints. Do you know what I mean? When you're walking, you see all these. You traverse so many hardships, and you're like, where were you? So, well, actually, I was kind of the one carrying you. Do you know what I mean? And we don't necessarily realize it. And I guess the point of what I'm saying is that I have found, you know, maybe I'll share some of my personal experiences on this pod. I haven't quite decided how deep I'm going to go into some of the things that I've experienced in life. But one thing I have found to be true is that even though Khalid, I think the idea exists, and even though the worst thing can happen, similar to what we're talking about when it comes to some of these highlight gigs and tick box gigs that we've had, they come and go. The extremes come and go.
Yeah.
Like, I've attained some great successes in music, and I've been in some fantastic stages, and I've done things that I never thought I would do in my musical journey, and more are to come. And at the same time, I've had some really low experiences in family, in my relationships, and in my personal life. Like, I've had some really, and all of those things together are what kind of mesh together give you the personality known as Tashomi Balfour.
Yeah, and it also gives you a sense of appreciation as well.
Absolutely.
You know, you can only appreciate the highs with the lows. You know, if you only have highs, then you become you become quite arrogant and
numb towards the highs.
I'd say so, yeah. But also, what's the word, man? I'm not sure what's going on with my memory, with my vocabulary of recent. But when I'm searching for a word, it just feels like it's just so out of reach. And entitled.
Yes.
You become entitled and think that this is just how it should be. I just deserve this.
Yes.
Because you have not had the opposite. You do not appreciate the position you are really in to have this opportunity, and that only comes from the hardships of life, which we all wish that we could avoid, but they actually are essential. You know, to
necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it comes to experiencing the adverse, which is the highs of life. You can look back and think, man, I was in that situation, and this only feels so much better for knowing how far I've come, and how bad it could be, because you could still be in that situation now, or if not in a worse one. So I think they mold you, but I do think those experiences are absolutely needed as well.
Absolutely needed. Absolutely.
Otherwise, the highs don't feel like highs. They
No.
just feel like normal. They feel like normal ground.
But one thing Alan Watts says is you can't arrange everything in a room up.
Yeah.
This all can't be up
true.
there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And earlier on, you spoke about space in music. Actually, I think
I was just thinking about
before.
dynamics of music when you said that about loud and quiet.
Well, that's it. It's actually the dynamic is what makes it.
Yeah.
You know, the variance is what makes it.
Yeah.
It's the space in music is what makes it more intriguing.
That's the thing. It's the space in between melodies. You just really, it's lighting up my brain now. But because I think, God, wow. I just realized that the space is always the answer. Actually, thinking about it, it's every melody. You know, if you just have just have that, just start taking things out, and a melody will naturally come, because it's the space in between those notes that makes the melody. It's the same with, you know, making something sound loud. Usually comes from something sounding quiet. That's it. It's you can't have everything loud.
Yes,
something
of course.
has to be in the background.
Yes.
Otherwise, there is no background. There is no foreground. You know. And it's just understanding that duality, probably not just in music, but in life as well. There has to be the highs, there has to be the lows.
And the space between the highs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes the spaces between the highs are so pronounced that the highs are appreciated so much more.
Yeah.
And then also you can then appreciate the lows because of that.
Yeah.
You know?
And also I think even in the lows as well, you know, or you can take solace that this is only a period, that it's not going to stay low or stay quiet, that there will be, you know, nothing. I can't remember who said that nothing is permanent, or nothing lasts. Everything that will be, I forgot what the saying is, but essentially it just speaks about not hanging on to where you are right now, whether it is good or it will all pass, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite comforting in all areas, because you can't have everything perfect all the time. You know, it becomes boring. It does. It becomes empty. You feel like you're missing and longing for something, and that's not longing for problems. Maybe it's longing for challenge. Maybe it's longing because if everything came easy, nothing would mean anything.
Nothing would mean anything.
You know, they say the joy lies in the journey. Again, not to sound cliche, but it is true. It is I worked so hard to achieve this.
There's a philosophy that Alan Watts again tells this story. He says, if you were God, what would you do?
Ooh,
And you think about it and you're like, well,
what a question.
I mean, firstly, I'm flying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, not even just flying on Earth, throughout the cosmos.
That's the first thing that comes to your mind is I would fly.
Let's just F this shit up. Let's go to town. Like,
Okay.
well, life would be perfection. It would be endless brilliance. It would be an experience that is so continually euphoric and high. It'll be a beautiful existence. And then after a while, it would get a little bit boring living in that place of perfection and endless brilliance. You'd have to introduce
That No, I want you to finish, but I've got a heavy question for you.
Well, so the end of the story essentially is you would go from a place of perfect brilliance to a point where you're sat on a sofa having a conversation about what the idea of life is, because you would have experienced all of the brilliance so much you'd need to continually introduce dare and risk and still in a safe environment.
Yeah.
But you want to have fun, and you can't have fun if it's all predetermined.
Yeah.
You need to have an element of what's going to happen next.
Okay, that is true. And I guess this kind of builds off what you were saying. You said if everything was perfect and everything was bliss, it would essentially become numb and boring. Do you think the idea of heaven would become boring?
From the Christian perspective?
From the Christian perspective. I don't think that's really been thought about or discussed much.
I think it would be horrendously boring.
To have everything perfect all the time, have everything you ever wanted all the time, forever.
But I don't think that's not how heaven is described to the Christian. It's to be in postulation towards God for eternity, exclaiming His greatness. I couldn't do that forever. not in the sense that I would be. See, I think there is, at least my interpretation of heaven, I don't think it's anywhere else than where we are.
Interesting.
And I think in terms of, if the Christian view of heaven is all creation ultimately worships God for eternity, I think that is happening all the time, everywhere, at the same time, whatever that movie's called. I think it's all happening now anyway.
Wait, you talk about everything, everywhere, all at once?
Yes.
That's a great movie.
I'm only taking the title, not any reference to the movie itself, but just the fact that, so my image of God, I used to be Christian. I got flipping John 3:16 tattooed on my
calf. I did
calf.
notice that, yes.
Yes.
I was
wondering,
waiting for the time
I got that.
To ask you about that off camera.
I got that tattooed, for the benefit of everybody else watching. I got that done a little while ago. Sorry to moon you guys. So yeah, I used to be Christian and very much a Pentecostal Christian. And a lot of that changed. I felt like my faith wasn't, I felt like it was very hollow. I felt like I'm doing the things I'm supposed to do. I'm saying the things I'm supposed to say. Definitely felt like at points, definitely a believer, and I'm a part of this group and part of God's family, whatever. But after a while, it just didn't seem to make sense. It felt very formulaic. And what about everybody else who believes other things? Are they going to go to hell? Like, there's a lot of questions I had. And the only reason I left Christianity was because I had to, for myself, almost... Truth be told, my decision was to, if I can disprove this religion, then I can leave it. Because I can't leave it if I find it to be true, because then if I do leave it, I'm going to hell. So I have to make a decision.
Which is interesting, because there is that core concept of you're doing something for your own benefit, which is to go to heaven and not go to hell. That's something within the Christian faith that I've always questioned of, well, is it really the love of God if you're doing it to avoid a punishment.
No, it's what Christians often talk about, the fear of God.
Yes.
And that's often what they talk about being a lofty position. So, I mean, you even see people having it on their T-shirts, Essentials, Fear of God. Like, that's the essential thing. But anyway, long story short, so I did a lot of study about when the Bible was written and how it was put together and who first put pen to paper where the Bible was concerned. A guy by the name of Saint Athanasius the Great was sent from Rome some 325 AD to go and study in Alexandria in Egypt, Northern Africa at the time, study ancient African spirituality, which is why you get a lot of dualities between African belief systems and Christianity in terms of some deities in there. They are quite similar because the first guy who was involved in writing the Bible went and studied in Africa. Long story short. But anyway, so I came from a monotheistic belief system in terms of who God is and what life is. And I moved on from there. I looked at a lot of other things. Islam, the first 5 books in the Bible, which make up the Torah: Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy. They also make up the first 5, or that makes up the Torah, the whole belief system where the sort of Jewish Orthodox are concerned. It's that book. That book also is the first 5 books of the Quran. There's a lot of similarities, a lot of different religions, but I looked at all those. I moved over to Eastern spirituality, Buddhism, and kind of found myself settling there.
I felt that, yeah. I was wondering if that was where you'd be, where you'd conclude the journey. Or...
That is kind of, well, because the search was no longer for a dude out there. When I came to Buddhism, and I wouldn't call myself a Buddhist by any means, but I have an affinity towards a lot of the ideas they have.
Yeah, because Buddha, it means the enlightened one, if I'm not mistaken. It's not a god, it's just an example of what you're aiming to achieve, if I'm not mistaken.
It's
From my
essentially,
brief,
yeah.
my very brief,
No, of
I have
course.
not studied this at all.
Well, it essentially is the realization that God is the great self. Like when one introduces himself and say, hi, I am Tashomi, you know, but if you take away the Tashomi, you say, well, I am, and you take away the am, and the one thing we have in common is the I. And it's the same I, but I am manifesting as Tashomi.
Okay.
And you are manifesting as Dre, but the I remains the same.
Interesting.
And, you know, Russes will say I and I. It's we share in the same consciousness. We're just different nodes of it. And the Buddhists would say that there is one self, and we all are eyes peering oneself. So really, you know, there's a song about this being a God dream, and that we are really lonely because there is only us, there is only one, but we all peer ourselves through multiple different angles. We're all having the same experience in the same place, just one ball of God.
Okay.
David in the Bible talks about, where can I go to be away from God? Can I go up here? Can I go down there? Can I go left? Can I go right? No, I'm always in God, but not separate from.
Okay.
Actually, it's almost like a feedback loop where God is viewing oneself.
Definitely something I hope to study a lot more. And you just ignite a fire in wanting that knowledge.
Yeah, well, don't leave church on my behalf, but
no. Well, I mean, my relationship with
or
church.
do maybe.
Well,
I don't know. It's up to you.
I grew up in a very Christian household, and throughout my early teens, the religion as an institution was something that I felt like I recognized at a very young age. I think the teachings and the lessons I try to adhere to. But I think the religion within itself is something that feels very, I don't want to say institutionalized, but very put together, very constructed, is what I would say, yeah. And I think I realized that when I felt better or more accurate depictions of what we as Christians are meant to be outside of the church. I felt that Christianity within itself is we are meant to be, you know, representations of Christ, which are meant to live in a way in which, you know, we represent God. This is how we live, and I didn't always see that in my church and in my religion, that being the core principle that everyone subscribed to. Sure. I found that outside of the church, I found more of that. So my journey with Christianity has already been I would say, somewhat predetermined up until this point. However, I have had instances of deep movement and deep spirituality that I could not explain.
Absolutely.
And so there is hence why I want to delve into this so much more, because there is definitely so much to learn and to understand about this, and not only see it from a lens of Christianity or atheism.
Yeah, I would suggest, at least from my experience, when I was reading things of a spiritual nature, and I'm reading from one book, one source. Sure, there's many ways one can interpret the Bible. There's many layers of revelation one can get from that, but it's still very much an enclosed system.
Yes.
And also, again, for me, in order to look elsewhere, I had to go beyond what the Bible was saying and go into why the Bible was written, you know?
Interesting.
Because for sure, if you think about it, the book doesn't grow on trees. Like it doesn't predate everything and everything at all. Even if you take the book Genesis in the Bible, when we get to the period of Moses, who, according to the Bible,
Freed the slaves.
wrote the first few books of the Bible, because it was Moses that then sees God on Mount Sinai.
I thought he wrote the Ten Commandments. He wrote the first.
Well, he wrote the Ten Commandments, but he also sees, there's a debate in the Bible that says like he was able to see God's back. God says, "You can't see my face and live, but I'll show you my back." And then that's the idea of, and that's where up until that point we then get Genesis and all the rest of it, because somebody had to be the witness of all of the stuff that went before and is the first writer of. So Moses is credited with writing some of the early books of the Bible. Okay. Only issue is, around the time of Moses, when he frees the slaves and all that kind of stuff, there's already a spiritual, there's already a religion or spiritual system in place at the time in Africa, and it had existed for however long. Okay. And so Moses brings a new religion and a new God for people to look and worship, because God already existed there. So I'm like, well, if this didn't come first, even in the book itself, how can I want to know what came first. And on a side note, if we really want to go to what came first, we'd have to look into the ancient Sumerian texts, which are the earliest known writings in human history. That's, if we want to know the first thing, that's kind of where we've got to go. The Bible and other books come later on down the line.
I think this is why, and I don't mean to go off topic. It's just something that's always in my consciousness. Fair enough, we're already off topic. But to bring it to more so ambition, success, and what is it we're striving towards? It's something that I'm battling with right now. Is money has never been a driving force, never. But I do think like the freedom to seek knowledge like this, like I would love to delve into this. I would absolutely love to delve into this. However, the first point of call comes the responsibilities of the company, and and dates and meetings that have to be adhered to, because there is there's life that still continues, and that life, does not continue while I am traveling the world reading Sumerian texts as much as I would want to. And I think that the goal of, I would question everyone who's even listening, is to think, what is the end goal for whatever it is that they're trying to achieve, whether it's spiritual enlightenment, whether it's physical fitness, or whether it's financial stability. At the end of that, what is it that you hope to do with the rest of your life? And I would say for me, what's become quite apparent is definitely just the greater understanding of these deeper concepts, for sure, because there are so many questions that are very much unanswered, and they might still remain unanswered, but I think you can definitely get closer to an answer. Having read multiple religious books from multiple different perspectives probably gives you an overview of, to say, okay, I have all of the information, and I can see, I feel like I'm closer to an answer than you would be just reading one book, and to have that, you need the time to be able to really delve into that kind of stuff, and devote a large majority of your life to not just researching, but truly understanding. One of the things with, in Christianity is that the whole point of a priest or a preacher is to interpret the word of God, which has always frustrated me, because it's like, so I can't learn this by myself. It's like, no, because there's an interpretation. It's like, well, why is it so hard to understand? Why does it need to be interpreted? If I had to bake a cake, I want to interpret the recipe. If this is meant to be the rule of life and my instruction manual of how to live, it should be very simple to understand. Do this, don't do this. But the fact that there needs to be someone else to interpret, which then introduces the element of false prophets. So why would there wouldn't need to be a false prophet if there wasn't the need for an interpreter in the first place? Anyway, I'm going well off track. Anyway, what I'm saying is, it would be really nice, and I very much hope to reach the place where I can come back to you with more knowledge on this subject for sure.
I'll tell you what's fascinating about it all is that I find the more the questions don't necessarily get answered. It
raises more questions.
It raises more questions.
Yeah.
And the further you go down, I think then almost you don't need to even ask a question anymore. Okay. Now it's not even about asking questions, but it goes into the book you're reading now, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. It goes to the place where actually I'm just here. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There's a constant, it's sort of, I think, one of the things that we want to know most is what, why, how, where, and all of this stuff. And of course, these are things that we should want to know more. And I'm very keen on knowing things more, or at least getting a better grasp on things. But I don't think there is an end to that journey. I think the end is when we call it the end. Do you know what I mean? Like a great saxophonist, Michael Brecker, probably one of the most technically brilliant saxophonists to ever have lived, period. And you hear him talk, and he talks about how there's just so much further that he needs to go. And there's so much, the journey is so long in terms of saxophone mastery and understanding of music and whatnot. And you're like, well, if you're out in front and you still need to figure stuff out. Yeah. Either there's no point, I may as well put the horn down now.
Well, I guess it's that saying,
where I am.
The more you know is the more you realize the more there is to learn or something.
Yeah, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I guess that's just a continuous thing in all areas of life, all subject matters. There's you know how much you don't know.
Yes. I'll tell you what I do know. I do know you've got a meeting very shortly.
In 2 minutes. 3 minutes. It's been an absolute pleasure, man, honestly. Absolute pleasure. Time has absolutely disappeared. I wonder if you've got enough memory.
Oh, that's wonderful.